Hey, it's BAO, and this is Coffee with BAO coming to you from a whole new studio. Coffee with BAO is where I chat with awesome people about their creative process, their cultural backgrounds, and how do they continue to grow as a human being, which is really cool, right? You can find all of my awesome past guests and contact me at coffeewithbao.com. You guys, today I'm hanging out with a fellow Vietnamese American who's in the arts, and she is an animation casting director, a voice director, a voice actor, and a really, really great singer and guitar player. She's worked on a ton of projects for Netflix, Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Warner Brothers, and more. And really excited to introduce you guys to my new friend, my former neighbor, Ashley Nguyen DeWitt.
Hi, pal. How's it going?
I'm on like some nerves. It might be the caffeine too, but having this brand new setup and this brand new space is like kind of weird.
Yeah.
How are you? Thank you.
I'm good. I'm good. You know, it's I also have the caffeine, so I also might be a little jittery. But you know, it's been a good day so far. So
hooray! I hope it turns out to be like a continuously great day. Thank you for making my day great as well. Cheers.
Aww, cheers.
Okay, so now that I'm not in downtown LA anymore, I really regret that we never got a chance to hang out in person.
I know.
Here we are.
Here
we can do this now.
Yeah, things are kind of opening up again, kind of.
Yeah.
We're probably still going to stay inside, but...
Totally. So Ashley, I discovered you on Twitter and during the pandemic pretty early on, and I was like, wow, she's doing cool stuff, like sort of related to what I'm doing. And as I got to learn more about your life through social media and stuff, I was like, man, our Vietnamese American experiences are pretty different. Like, I totally want to know more about this person. And so here we are. I did some sneaking around on you, and I found out that you, I think, are from the Bay Area. Your father's Vietnamese. Your mother is African American. Am I going down the right path?
Yeah. My dad immigrated here from Saigon, Vietnam, in 1967. I want to say, and my mom is from Watts. Like in LA. And so they met while they were both working at a police station in East Palo Alto in the 80s. Cool. He was a rookie and she was like a dispatcher over the radio. And they met, they fell in love. They had me and my brother, and now they're like semi-retired in Texas, living the dream.
So cute.
Yeah, they're really cute.
That's so cool. Did you grow up in the Bay Area then? Like most of your life, your early life?
Yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area. My dad was a cop in San Leandro, and we lived in this city called San Ramon, and that's where I grew up. East Bay Area Valley.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like your mom's family is from Southern California. Did you guys have family up there as well? Like, what was the network of people around you like growing up?
Yeah, so my mother's family, yes, all lived down here in LA, and my father's family actually lives in Northern California. So my Banoi, my Ongnoi, they both lived in the Bay Area, like Berkeley, Hayward time. So I would see them a lot actually growing up.
Nice.
Since we were closer to them, I saw like my Banoi all the time. And eventually she moved in with my parents. As soon as I moved out, she took over my room. And like kind of live with them ever since. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, for the non-Viet folks, a Banoi is a grandmother on your father's side.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys speak Vietnamese at home at all?
No. I mean, it's so interesting. Like, I learned how to count. Like I knew like the Bat Noi and Ang Noi and like that, but really we didn't speak. I mean, my mother doesn't speak. my father, he can speak it, because he grew up there, and like him and my grandmother speak, but we were never really taught. They tried to put us in a Vietnamese school when I was like a weekend school to like teach us.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they didn't really teach us as much as sit my brother in a corner with crayons and apples and taught all of, like, the Vietnamese presenting kids over us. So my parents kind of just pulled us out because they were like, they're not doing anything for you.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. But my Ongoy, he used to build computers. So when I was little, he put on this program on my computer that was like a Vietnamese language program. So like you click on a picture of a chicken, it would go ga, like it was just like a cute little thing that he put on our computers to kind of try to teach us, but it didn't really stick.
Cool. At least you guys tried, and you have the basic like salutations and stuff. I think that's important as a show of respect for all of our elders and stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
That's cool. What was the balance of cultures like growing up?
It was interesting because we were mostly around like my Vietnamese family because we lived near them. We spent a lot of time, especially around my grandmother and like her family. Like we would celebrate Tet. Like we would be with them. My grandma would take us to a pagoda. My mom would take us to church. Mm-hmm. It's really whoever picked us up and brought us first. But like we grew up going, like I grew up going to church. I was baptized Christian, but I also would eat with monks, growing up, which was really, really interesting. My grandmother used to have a restaurant in the 70s, so we grew up eating a lot of Vietnamese food. And my mother cooks a lot as well, so we grew up eating a lot of soul food, like it was like a really interesting balance between the two of them. Like it was, it was mixed, as I am, yeah.
I love that so much. I really think it makes for really interesting experiences and perspectives that obviously now you're kind of like using in your work and your music and your person, and it's so cool to me. And for me, like I was born in Vietnam, I grew up speaking Vietnamese here in the US, but we're very much like Vietnamese, and I think moving around has kind of given me additional perspectives, but I really appreciate that the way that you and your brother grew up had so many inputs as far as culture, so that's really cool.
Yeah, like we had those, but I mean, like we're American, so we grew up very American.
That's really great. Mm-hmm. I'm also glad that you had your Vietnamese family nearby and were able to catch a lot of the cultural things like Tet and pagoda. So
yeah, cool. Yeah. I mean, like I try to. It's so interesting being someone who's mixed, especially between those two cultures, because like my brother and we present as African American. We look African American. Like naturally, I have a natural giant afro, like, and so like it's always an experience being with my Vietnamese family because we were just like so different on the outside. But like as I grew older, I realized that I identify equally with being Vietnamese and being African American, and I try to honor that as much as I can. Like at my wedding, I wore an ao gai. At my wedding reception, I had like my big, beautiful, like princess white dress, and then like wedding reception, I changed into an ao gai. So,
yay!
Like, yeah.
We've been talking a lot about how you and your family addressed your biculturalness, but I know like sometimes kids can be pretty brutal. Like, how was it growing up with like tweens and teens? How did they view you and treat you?
It was so interesting because when I moved from San Leandro to San Ramon, like I went from being around like a lot of like kids of color, to a city that I was surrounded by mostly, I would say like East Asian and white kids. So I was coming into that area as like a Black kid, you know, because how I presented. And I remember being in elementary school and like drawing a picture of my family. And so like I had like the brown crayon for like me and my brother and like my mom. And then I would take a yellow crayon and I would draw my dad. And like kids were confused about that. And like it was just, I mean, so like in elementary school, when I moved, it was like hard. When I got into middle school, I hung out with all the Asian kids, which was really interesting. We just all gravitated toward each other. People assumed that I was Filipino based off of the way that I looked, which was interesting. And so like I hung out with all the Filipino kids. And then like once I got to high school, the pool grew, you know, like, and then there were certain clubs, like there's like the Black Student Union, the Asian Student Union, and like, which one do I belong? Which one do I gravitate towards? And it was so interesting, just like where are people putting me? You know?
Interesting.
And so like, there was a moment where in my high school, they had like this terrible meeting, where they took basically all the kids of color. And I know that they didn't really want to, but like all the like the Hispanic kids and the kids who just, it's mostly just like the kids with just ethnic last names that weren't Asian. And they put them in this assembly to tell them to bring their their standardized testing up. And like my name wasn't called because my last name is Nguyen, so like I wasn't called. And I remember like walking past, but like my best friends who are like twin, like pale, tall, beautiful, like half Cuban, so their last name's Alamar, like they were put into this like meeting, and I was like walking past the assembly room, and like I poked my head in, and like I saw them, and I like waved, and I saw like with the assembly going, and like a teacher was like, "Hey, why aren't you in this?" And I was like, "I don't know, bye." Like I just like left, but like you
just blew my mind.
I know. It was rough. And they had to apologize for that meeting because it was kind of racist.
Wow.
But like it
So
it was so interesting just kind of growing up of like, where do people put you?
Yeah, exactly. That was how I was going to summarize it. Like it's hard for most people to like put you into a box, which they shouldn't be doing anyway, but like that's the natural inclination, right?
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Okay, so how did you discover that you were like an artist, because you truly are multifaceted in the arts?
Oh, thanks. Well, my mother is a singer. I should say she doesn't stop singing, but my mom great. And I used to sing together a lot when I was growing up. She would sing like a medley of songs constantly, and like it's so funny, like they were both arts majors. My dad was a photography major, which is so interesting because they both went into such not like uncreative positions. Like my mom's a contracts manager and my dad's retired now, but he was like a police officer and like an inspector and like worked his way through that. So they were both very artistic, and they both loved music and would always play music constantly. And like my dad grew up in Berkeley in the 70s, so like a lot of like really, really good music came out of the Bay Area at that time. And so like he was always playing stuff. And so I grew up with this love of music. My mom used to say that like I was singing out of the womb, you know?
That's awesome.
Yeah. So like both my brother and I are really into music. Like he's a brilliant like violinist and composer and stuff. And like, yeah, it's just kind of something that was really, I was interested in. And then my mother, she was like an arts and like a theater major too. So like she introduced me to like musical theater and stuff. That's how I kind of found out, just kind of growing up and singing a lot when I was a kid and like playing around and like being super dramatic. Was how I was very dramatic as a kid. Was how I kind of discovered my passion for it. And like I was a choir kid for so long. And then one of my best friends in high school, who's since passed away, but she really wanted to join this theater class that you had to audition for, and she didn't want to audition by herself, so she asked me to audition.
Oh, cool.
And so I was like, sure, I'll audition, and I got in. Like I improvised a monologue.
I hope she got in too.
Playwright. She did. We both got in. But she was mad because like I improvised my monologue. Like I completely faked a monologue and like a playwright and a play and stuff, and I just like went for it and I got into the class. So like that's what started like my theater and my acting career.
I love that.
And yeah, and so that's kind of the path that I took going into college and kind of more into my career. But like singing, yeah, it's just all, it's kind of just always been around me.
Yeah, it sounds like your parents probably were pretty supportive too, relative to a lot of people.
Yeah, it's interesting because like a lot of the camps that I went to, you know how like people go to summer camps? Like I went to science and math camp. I went to the National Youth Leadership Forum on Medicine, like doctor camp. Like I never really went to an arts camp growing up. So it's like, it's not like they didn't like try or didn't suggest, but they never really pushed me in any sort of way. They just wanted me to be happy.
That's nice.
And like, I will say that they were my biggest supporters. Like they would come down for every play that I've been in. If I was playing in a band, they would try to come down and see the band play. Like,
cool.
They're very braggadocious. They love bragging on me and like all my art and stuff. Yeah, they're like my biggest supporters and biggest fans, like outside of my husband, but like my OG number one.
Yeah.
So
lucky you.
Yeah, I got really lucky.
That's great. So you eventually make your way to Southern California. You go to Cal State Northridge, and you do theater.
Yeah.
to get all that energy out, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Now you're doing like voice acting, like without people looking at you and stuff. Do you feel like those are pretty different? Because to me, they're like vastly different.
Yeah, I mean, so I do more casting and directing than I do acting, but it is different and it isn't. Like I don't think that it's that different. I mean, yeah, technically because there's no stage, so you're not on stage being in front of people, and then like the performance you do that night, that's it, and it's like never to be seen again. That performance is like once in a lifetime, and then on the next day you do like the same but different performance, you know, and then that's gone. Totally. And it's like you don't have any sort of tangible thing. When voice acting or directing, it's like you're recording in a booth. Sometimes you're isolated, sometimes you're with other people. But you don't have that audience feedback, so you don't have like the applause or like the gasping or like the emotional like impact. Like because you're just like doing 3 in a row and you're like, was that good? Was that okay? Cool. Like, and then you just keep going, you know. So I'd say in terms of that, it's different, but like you still need the same like energy level and like quality of acting needs to be the same. Like you know.
Totally. So it's like a music recording artist and a touring musician, right? Those are musicians who go on stage and play versus chilling in the studio, which you can go back and like fix something if you screw up.
Exactly. Yeah, it's whether or not you can fix stuff. It's kind of the difference of just like
that's great. Yeah, I do think that reacting to the audience is a really unique experience within the arts. It's like it gives you so much life and creative input to help craft your work or whatever. So that's really cool. I saw that you started in the entertainment industry like really early as like a 20-year-old intern or something.
Yeah. So what happened was there was a voice casting director, like a commercial voiceover director, who came and did a masterclass or spoke at CSUN at Northridge. And it was really interesting, you know. And at that point, like I didn't want to go home for the summer. And I was like trying to find things to do during the summer.
Got it.
So like I was like, and what she said was super interesting. And I've always loved cartoons. I've always loved like animation and like the idea of voiceover and like video games and all of that. So I offered to help her afterwards to bring all of her stuff to her car. And I asked her if she was looking for any like interns or anyone to like help around in the office because I'd love to learn more about it. And she said yes. And so that was in between my junior and senior year of college. I worked for them, and then I kind of worked for them part-time my senior year. And then they hired me full-time as soon as I graduated. But it was like full-time, part-time because I also started working with a Shakespearean theater company for acting and music at that same time as soon as I graduated college. So I was kind of doing both. And so because I was like, you know what, theater acting is going to be like my main gig, and like this voiceover casting thing is going to be my side gig. And then like the older I got, the more it switched, where it's like, oh no, casting is like where money is, and like where like a little bit more creative control is. So yeah, that's kind of how I started.
Cool. Were there any like That's so great. I really hope I've interviewed a few people who've had stories where being proactive has really, really paid off. And, you know, for anybody younger, or actually anybody of any age watching this, like sometimes being proactive and like you really have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
The worst that
they can do is say
somebody
no.
says, no thanks.
Yeah.
So good on you.
Thank you.
That's great. Was there anything about building up your career and your reputation that you felt is notable or like extra challenging as you were kind of working yourself up to where you are now?
I'd say yes and no. There are certain points where like you can get pigeonholed into something. Like I'm a workhorse. Like if you give me a job, I will just like do it and like do it really, really well. And sometimes when that happens, you get stuck in that position because they're like, they can do that really, really well. And that's where they're going to be. And like, there's no sort of upward momentum for that. So I had some challenges in that where I felt like where I wanted to be wasn't where I was, and I was being kept where I was because I was really good at it, but it wasn't really, it stopped being beneficial to me at a certain point. So I would say that was kind of my biggest challenge, and like my biggest hurdle was knowing my worth and like being like, you know what, I'm gonna actually go for what I want, you know, and be in a more creative place, and like having people who champion me in that. So like I have this wonderful mentor. Her name's Christy Reed. She's like a brilliant voice director, casting director. And once I left kind of my more corporate animation job, she asked me if like I wanted to like work for her, like help her with scheduling, but in turn she'll also like mentor me and like let me shadow her and like be in a different recording environment and like meet different companies, and like she'll pitch me for stuff, and like she's just been like a dream person to have in my corner. Yeah. So like that's really like how I got to exactly where I am today.
That's so cool. So since then you've worked on some pretty cool stuff like Max Steel, Trolls, The Beat Goes On, Harvey Street Kids featuring our friends, the Lofties.
Yeah.
Spirit Riding Free, and many, many more shows. You did some voice acting on Barbie's Dreamhouse Adventures?
Yeah. So like all the shows that you mentioned, I was like a coordinator, and that's like my up and coming stuff. So I got to work on some really cool projects through DreamWorks as like a coordinator, where like I was kind of a liaison between like the studio, actors, like agents, production, all of that stuff. So I got to work on like some really, really cool properties. And then, I voice acted on Barbie's Dreamhouse Adventures. I play a Barbie mermaid queen for an episode. And that was cool. That was so cool. Like
that brings such a huge smile to my face.
Yeah. And it's just so, and she's so cute. And like, it was just like a really cool, like creative thing that I got to do, you know?
Yeah.
I did all of that stuff, kind of just like working through my career over like the past 10 years.
Totally.
Yeah.
You also produced and performed in and wrote the music for Ariana Grande parody, I guess, or cover that went viral.
Yeah, that was crazy. So after I quit my corporate animation job, I left to be more creative and to like work with Christy. And in creativity, I hooked up with my friend Julia Axe, who's like a brilliant like singer, actress, and she does like a really mean Julie Andrews. And she just did like a joke where she sang Seven Rings as Julie Andrews, like Ariana Grande song. And at that point we were kind of just like, we should make a music video. So like we pulled together like all of our friends. Like it was produced with our friends like Steve, Sam, my husband edited it. We had like this really cool crew of people who helped us create like a shot for shot remake of Seven Rings as Julie Andrews, and I got to music produce it and to like write the parody jokes in there.
Amazing.
And yeah, Ariana Grande saw it. She reposted it on her Instagram uncredited, and it got like 10 million views or something. And then like our YouTube video got like over 1 million views on that. And like that was insane because like the day we posted it, she found it and reposted it. And we were like, what is happening? And it like blew up my friend's career as like a personality and stuff.
Genius.
And like an influencer. And yeah, it was just a lot of fun, you know, and we did a bunch of different like parodies as well off of that during that year. And that was crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. So usually on this type of conversation, I choose somebody's project and I help share it and stuff. And I want to do something a little different today because you're working on something really, really cool that's not out yet. Mm-hmm. So I want to share a project that you did recently. And then maybe talk about how both of those kind of tie in with your life experiences and your goals as a creative. So let's watch like a short clip of this thing called Don't Deny It, Defy It.
Yes!
1, 2, 3! Hey, when we're older, let's get married.
Ha! You can't get married.
Why not? Black people can't marry white people.
Hey now.
It's Garnet from Steven Universe.
Kids, don't be racist.
Cut. Okay, people, we just need to get coverage. We'll start again in 5.
This is the cheesiest job I've ever done. Stuff like this doesn't actually happen in real life.
Whoa there.
Are you kidding? It totally does.
Just because this has never happened to you doesn't mean it doesn't happen.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Seriously, I didn't know.
Yeah, everyone messes up sometimes. But you gotta realize it hurts to deal with racism. And when people act like it's not real, it makes it feel even worse.
You have to acknowledge racism to work against it.
I love that really so much.
Yeah.
I love that the medium it comes in is a short from Cartoon Network, and it's like a whole series of these. Wait, 1 second. You guys, I'm hanging out with an incredible person called Ashley Nguyen DeWitt. She did the voice casting and voice directing on that short that we just watched called Don't Deny It, Defy It. It's part of an anti-racism campaign from the Cartoon Network. And I just feel like it's an amazing way to help young people see a lot of the realities of the world that sometimes they might not be exposed to, or sometimes they are and they struggle to understand. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had that sort of stuff when I was growing up, because it would have been invaluable, right? Mm-hmm. And I can't wait to talk about more of these themes with you, Ashley. You can find Ashley on her personal website at Ashley Nguyen DeWitt. I'm going to spell it for you. AshleyNguyenDeWitt.com. Okay, so that must be incredible to work on. And how many have you guys done so far?
So there were only 4, and they're all out. So all 4 are out. And yeah, it was really, really cool. And they all center on like different things. So that was like about anti-racism. There's something about like Black history. There's one about like allyship. One about like being colorblind. So like we did
featuring Guitar Dad.
Yeah, featured Guitar Dad. Yeah, there were only 4 of them. And it was a really cool project I worked on last year with the creator of Steven Universe and Rebecca Sugar and also Ian Jones-Cordy. And it was just like such a cool experience that they had me working on it. Like as like a Black woman, they wanted me to be the voice director and casting director because they felt that was important for these things to get like that opportunity. So yeah, it was super cool.
I love it. It's kind of like in a similar vein as what you're working on now, which is super exciting. Can you give us like a tiny synopsis of Ada Twist Scientist?
Oh yeah. So Ada Twist is about like a young Black scientist who will explore helping people through scientific discovery, like collaboration and friendship. And she solves mysteries with the help of her 2 best friends, Rosie Revere and Iggy Peck. And it's based on this wonderful book series. And yeah, it's super fun. It's really cool.
I can't wait to check that out.
Yeah, it comes out at some point this year on Netflix.
I know. I was trying to like look around the internet for a release date, and it was just like sometime this year. Okay,
yeah,
cool. Do you said that they hired you specifically for the Cartoon Network shorts because they thought your experience as a woman of color would help you kind of work on that project. Mm-hmm. Do you personally see? How do I phrase this? Like, what's your special sauce that you see that you contribute to projects as a casting or a voice director?
Well, like for casting and voice directing, like I know how good it feels to be authentically represented, in the media or in upper like positions. And so like for me, I like to try to cast as authentically as is within my means to, with like the time and the resources that I have. And I think that there are certain experiences that I can bring as like a young person of color that I believe would be beneficial to certain projects that a white director wouldn't have, because there have been a lot of culturally specific projects coming out that like having someone in the room with these actors or digitally as we're doing now because of pandemic, like just having someone who can relate to the experience that they're trying to direct is something that I can bring, and like my position has historically been predominantly white, and older than I am, I'm in my early 30s. And so just bringing a different perspective. So,
and a more authentic one for a lot of this type of content.
Yeah. For certain content, and like I've met a lot of the voice directors that are working out there and just who have just been like doing it for so long and who are just brilliant and wonderful. But there's so much animation coming out right now. And they can only do so much. So like me coming in with a different style and a different perspective, I think just, helps continue, into animation and kind of like bringing like new points of views and stuff.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Thank you.
That's really cool that things are kind of moving in that direction because I totally feel you on being authentically represented. And I think that's so important for children too, and to see themselves in the media.
Yeah. And also in like creative positions stuff. Like I was once directing a callback where we were auditioning a little African American girl. And afterwards, one of her parent like reached out to me like on Instagram. And just to tell me how wonderful it was to see a room where women of color were in power and running the auditions because they'd never had that experience before. And like, that's the stuff I love. And like, that's why I got into this position because I wanted them to feel that sort of the way and see that like we can like be in overhead positions, like upper positions. Like yeah. So like it's really cool, you know.
Do you see a pretty clear path forward in terms of building your career and your reputation, or do you, for example, do you have a pretty clear vision of where you'd like to be in a few years, or do you, or what?
Oh yeah, I mean, like I mean, it's clear and it's not, you know, because it's so interesting. I've done so many things, like different things, and I kind of go wherever the path pulls me. But I think that in the future, I see myself doing more of this, you know, like I would love to voice direct more shows and just kind of build my resume through that and like direct different types of animation, like for different audiences. Like that's where I see myself, hopefully.
Totally.
Yeah. And like,
are you super into working on children's content?
I like working on everything. Like I've started in children's content, but I would love to have more opportunities to do adult animation. Like I started in preschool, and like Ada Twist actually was my first series in the voice directing chair. That I was given this opportunity by like Chris Nee, who was also another wonderful person, and Cary Grant, who is the showrunner. Who really like took a chance on me because I had never done this before, and really just like gave me this opportunity and wanted to give me this opportunity to voice direct and like do that sort of thing. So like I feel like it just kind of set me up onto like a path of like they set me up for greatness, you know, and like I just want to honor that and honor them and then give me those chances. All these wonderful people who have really just like
absolutely, you know. Every time I talk to somebody like you, I'm like, man, it's all of the people who like proactively or like had the foresight to support somebody and kind of uplift them. And I mean, I want to be like that. I wish a lot of people were, you know, more like that. And I just appreciate the people who are like that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Something cool about Ada Twist Scientist is it's produced by Netflix and a production company called Laughing Wild, and Higher Ground, which is the Obama's production company. Like, is that a big resume booster or what?
Yeah, it is, especially because it's my my debut series.
Debut.
Yeah,
yes.
You know, it's kind of like my first series, and like so I would say yes, it's a huge resume booster. And again, it's all thanks to Chris and Cary, who just kind of were like, we want to give you this opportunity and help you succeed in this position, and this is the big one, and we want to like put our, you know, trust in you to do this for this huge thing, you know. And like it's really exciting and a little nerve-wracking, but it's going to be really great. Like I have faith in the show, so
that's awesome. So I know that Ada Twist Scientist is made for preschoolers, but I might be watching it myself.
Yeah, you should. I mean, I think everyone should watch it.
That's so cool. I'm excited for you. I'm really happy to see you kind of like making these advancements in the industry. And tell me if I'm wrong, but I have an assumption that like both race and gender have kind of played a role during your process in the industry, and probably has affected like the opportunities you get, the preconceptions that people have about you, the network that you're able to build. Do you think this like double whammy of issues have you been really cognizant of it, or am I overblowing it?
I honestly, like, I don't want to speak for anyone who, you know, who have afforded me opportunities or not. But like, I know it's so interesting. Like growing up, my mom always kind of instilled into me that like, you are a woman of color, you are a Black woman, you know, and like you're going to have to work 100 times harder than your counterparts just to
totally.
break even, which I feel like is like a general person of color sentiment I've heard from a lot of people, where it's like you just have to work harder to be successful. And so like I've always had that mindset. So when it comes to like things affecting my opportunities and stuff, at that point that was already so ingrained in me that like I never let anything stop me, because like it was just kind of like yeah, you know, like sure, that's a thing. But like I'm a really hard worker and I'll do great work for you, and like that shouldn't matter, because you should just see like who I am and what my talent is. And like I'm sure it's like affected opportunities for me, or conceptions or any of that, but like I wasn't truly aware of that sort of thing, because like it's just kind of like a sure, you know, like that's gonna happen.
Sure, yeah.
But it never stops me from anything.
I feel you, and I think that's really great to know that it's there, but also just push yourself as far as you can all the time, and have your own standards for greatness, right? It's great.
Yeah.
You guys, I'm talking to a wonderful person called Ashley Nguyen DeWitt. She's currently casting and voice directing an upcoming Netflix animation called Ada Twist Scientist. It's a series, actually, not just an animation. And it was co-produced with Netflix with a company called Laughing Wild and Higher Ground, which is the production company of our former president and first lady, the Obamas. You can find Ashley on her website at ashleynguyendewitt.com. You also did this song recently that was synced for the King Arthur Baking Company. Your song Rise Again, which really demonstrates how soulful and natural your voice is. It's just really beautiful, and I think your mom is probably like, hey, she got it from me.
Yeah, I did. And she would.
Totally.
Yeah.
How did you guys make that song before knowing anything about the King Arthur thing? Did they just
no?
sort it out?
So my friend Alana Da Fonseca is just like this brilliant songwriter. They tapped her to write for their commercial campaign, and they wanted like sort of like that retro sound. And she was like doing the demo for it, and she really wanted a woman of color to be the demo and the singer for it. And she was like, I have the perfect one. And she like hit me up on Instagram and was like, do you want to come sing this demo? And I was like, yes, I'll sing anything for you. I love your music. And so she had me sing the demo, and then they liked the demo so much that they wanted to put me in to be the singer for the commercial. And then in conjunction with that, Alana wanted to release like a full length version of this song. So that's when we recorded it, and she had me put it out under my name. And yeah, that's kind of how that came to be. And like, I love this song. I thought it was a brilliant message. It's such a beautiful commercial. And like,
and it's a pun.
Yeah, and it's a pun, which I love puns. So yeah, that's kind of how that came to be. That it was commissioned by King Arthur Baking. And
that's so cool. I know that like narrative storytelling is kind of where your work resides mostly, but like, is being a songstress something that you're doing in your dreams? Like, are you into that?
Yeah, when I was little, I wanted to be Ella Fitzgerald and Spider-Man, you know, like, that's what I wanted. But what's so interesting is that singing has been in my life for the entirety of it. And like, I still do sing. And like, before the pandemic, I was playing in a band. I was playing bass in like this like 60s garage band that like pandemic hit. You can't really play music with people anymore.
Sure.
In a parallel universe, yes, it's something that I'm just like doing for my career. But I also have anxiety about being like in the forefront of things too. So like, I love stuff like being able to sing for a commercial. So it's like, I'm not like a pop star or anything, but I'm still able to get my voice out there. And yeah, like in my dreams, I'm singing. Cool. Always.
That's so cool. I have so many projects, and now I know of this singer with this voice. So you're somewhere in here.
Yeah, hit me up.
That's wonderful. So outside of your like career stuff and your projects, I really look forward to getting to know you better, you know, in the future, just as a person. Is there anything that you're working on for yourself as a person that you can share?
Yeah, like therapy is great. Like that helps me work on myself as a person. I go to therapy. I think everyone should. I think that's really helped with my mental health, especially during the pandemic and especially just in general. That is something that's kind of keeping me aware of myself, you know?
Totally.
And not completely just falling into myself. So yeah.
That's so cool. I know that your personal projects and your professional projects all involve like such a massive ecosystem of people. And, you know, for me as a songwriter and a music producer, a lot of times I'm either by myself or I work with a very small team. I wonder if there's something that you can teach me, or if you have a hot tip that you can show me about learning to or dealing with projects that have such a massive ecosystem of people.
Patience.
I got that.
Yeah, having patience is a really big thing. Patience and just being nice and open to things.
Nice.
And like really looking at the big picture and not like internalizing a lot of things. If there are anything that like negative that's happening, not internalizing that and realizing that there's a whole big picture and there are a lot of factors of things that led to certain points. So like just patience and being grateful.
Wow, you guys, do you know how well this translates just into just being and not just work and not just projects? This is just like life advice right there. And I so appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
This has been like such a great way to meet you and get to know about you. And I really appreciate that you set up this time to chat with me.
Of course. Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been really nice.
You got any closing things for the peeps? Anybody you want to shout out or whatever?
Shout out to my mom, my dad, my brother, my grandma, my husband. No, I just, you know, everybody, like, I love you.
I think you said it earlier, but like, I wanted to just reiterate that people like you and me are eternally grateful for those people who went before us in their careers and are actually making efforts to help uplift us, like, or, you know, the next generation of people. And I think that's so cool. And I kind of get that vibe from you as a very authentic human, you know, who's really cognizant of those things.
Thank you.
Stay put. I'm going to give an outro, and then I'll come back and say proper goodbye to you.
Okay, sounds good.
Yo, that was Ashley Nguyen DeWitt. She is a casting director and a voice director, actor, brilliant singer. What can't she do? You can find Ashley at ashleynguyendewitt.com. That's her personal website, or just Google her. You'll find her. If you liked Coffee with Bao today, you can support me by subscribing or just sharing this with your human friends, your non-human friends as well. Also, if you can financially support me in making this very labor and time-consuming content, I'd really appreciate it. You can do that on coffeewithbao.com. There's a big blue button that says leave a tip, I think. So anyway, thank you for having Coffee with Bao, and Ashley, we'll see you next time.